1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome back to 31 Days of Horror. Day number 16. My guest today is my good friend, Jed Duesler.
How's it going?
Or as I called him last year, Ded Juesler, which is a very spooky name.
It is a very spooky name. I kind of like it.
Welcome back to the show, Jed.
Thanks, Dom. How are you?
I'm doing all right. The show's doing all right. I'm getting by. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
I thought we were talking about the horror movie Cats.
I mean, it was certainly horrific.
Okay, I'm glad I've seen these other movies, but I was on a completely different. Okay.
We're doing a twofer because it's the same movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a lot different, But
So-
I mean, it's the same premise, I guess, and it's not really.
I've
So
seen
weird.
It's unusual. I've seen Evil Dead 2 described as a remake or a sequel, but I think the best way to describe it is a second draft.
When I was watching these, I was like, so it's not, I don't know that, it's not a sequel. And maybe Sam Raimi was just ahead of his time in creating a whole new multiverse. This is just, he's in a different timeline is all.
Yeah. Well, it just seems like they filmed their first draft, which normally you don't do. And then he went back to the script and made some tweaks, but it's still the same basic story. So let's go over the first one. Well, let's get some stats here.
Okay.
Evil Dead is from 1981, directed by Sam Raimi, produced by Robert Tappert. They will continue to work together throughout the years, including producing Hercules and Xena. Sam Raimi, of course, directs a bunch of Spider-Man movies and the latest Doctor Strange movie. I'm not sure if Robert Tappert was producer on those movies or not, but of course Bruce Campbell. Campbell has cameos in those. Yeah, this is a Renaissance Pictures production, which is the company that does Hercules and Xena. It's 85 minutes. The budget was $375,000. The box office was 2.7 million, although Wikipedia says 2.7 or 29.4. I couldn't figure out what that or 29.4 was, because that is a big difference. I don't know if that's all time, including rentals and things.
You might check IMDb as opposed to Wikipedia. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a footnote here, but I didn't find information when I clicked the footnote. The cast is Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, Ellen Sandweiss as Cheryl Williams, Richard DeManicore as Hal Delrich, as Scott. Oh, as Hal. So his name is Richard DeManicore, but he's credited as Hal Delrich, and he's playing Scott.
not
Betsy
confusing at all.
Baker as Linda, and same thing here, Teresa Tilly as Sarah York as Shelley. I don't know why these people are using completely different stage names, film names.
Maybe they didn't have any association with the movie in case it was awful.
Yeah.
But while they were filming it, was probably their thinking. You could have watched this.
Yeah.
I don't want mine attached to.
Uncredited, we have Sam Raimi as local fisherman and the voice of the Evil Dead, Robert Tappert as local fisherman, and Bob Dorian as Professor Noby's voice. And I thought Ted did something in this one. I know he does in the next one. I thought Ted was Shemp or something, but he's not listed. So,
Have you listened to the audiobook by Bruce Campbell?
the audiobook of Evil Dead or of his biography.
It's his I think it's his autobiography. He has like a couple of them. So but I think it's called If Chins Could Talk or something like that, or If Chins Could Kill.
I have
I can't
a autographed copy of his first one, Leading with My Chin, I think it's called.
No. So yeah, I think he's on his third one now, but you're Bruce Campbell, you can do that. So anyways, it talks a lot about that stuff, and it's definitely worth a listen for you audience members out there. And Dominic, do your homework.
So it's the first of several movies. There's Evil Dead 2, and then Evil Dead Army of Darkness. And then there's a reboot just called Evil Dead. And then there was a series called Ash versus Evil Dead that had 3 seasons of 10 episodes each. But today
There's
we'll just...
also a NC-17 version of it out there, but I guess you can come up with its own title.
And there are some comic books and stuff and some crossovers like Xena meets Evil Dead or something like that.
Of course. Of course.
I don't think I
After
can't
watching
remember.
Army of Darkness, I don't see why not. But
Yeah, it was probably through the Army of Darkness that they managed to team up.
yeah.
Because this book opens portals to other times and places. So
But Bruce Campbell was also in Xena, the
yes,
TV series. So who is he playing? And you see see where it starts to get murky there. So
I think in the comic they might have the two characters meet up.
of course. For a chin off or something.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of go through the plot here,
Okay.
such as it is. This is our summary off of Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. 5 Michigan State University students: Ash Williams, his girlfriend Linda, his sister Cheryl, their friend Scott, and Scott's girlfriend Shelley vacation at an isolated cabin in rural Tennessee. It's really kind of a shack. Approaching the cabin, the group notices the porch swing move on its own, but suddenly stop as Scott grabs the doorknob. While Cheryl draws a picture of a clock, the clock stops, and she hears a faint demonic voice tell her to join us. Her hand becomes possessed, turns pale, and draws a picture of a book with a demonic face on its cover. Although shaken, she does not mention the incident.
This is exactly where Bob Ross got his inspiration from this movie.
Is it? John, happy little rapist trees?
Right.
Because that's going to happen in a moment. When the cellar door flies open during dinner, Shelley, Linda, and Cheryl remain upstairs as Ash and Scott investigate the cellar. They find the Naturum de Monto, a Sumerian version of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, along with archaeologist Raymond Noby's tape recorder, and they take the items upstairs. So let me just say here, the Naturum de Monto is not a Sumerian version of the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Okay.
It does not mean the Book of the Dead. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's not proper Latin. It seems like that it could mean something like on the nature of demons, but it's not proper Latin, so it doesn't actually mean that, but it hints at that meaning. But it absolutely doesn't mean the Book of the Dead.
Dominic is well versed in proper Latin, by the way.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. In the other movies, the book is called the Necronomicon Ex Mortis.
Necronomicon.
And the Necronomicon is a fictional, magical, cursed book created by H.P. Lovecraft and used in a lot of horror fiction. And the Necronomicon means the Book of Dead Names, and that's Greek. This book is called the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, which is mixing Greek and Latin and would mean the Book of Dead Names from Death.
Everybody knows the Latin and Greek don't mix. It's like oil and water.
Yeah, I just don't know why Sam Raimi felt the need to tack the Ex Mortis on there. I don't know what he was doing or why he did it. I would like to ask him about that someday and possibly slap him. I don't know. It just bugs me.
Oh, not the only one that wants to slap Sam Raimi.
It just bugs me. But anyway, they take the stuff upstairs and play the tape, which has an incantation on it that resurrects a demonic entity. Resurrects it, summons it, whatever. Cheryl yells for Scott to turn off the tape recorder, and a tree branch breaks one of the cabin's windows. Later that evening, an agitated Cheryl goes into the woods to investigate strange noises. Never a good idea.
Right. 101. Don't do that.
Oof. Where she is attacked and raped by demonically possessed trees. So, that's a thing that happens.
She said she wanted to branch out onto new things.
Oh my God. When she escapes and returns to the cabin bruised and anguished, Ash agrees to take her back into town only to discover that the bridge to the cabin has been destroyed. And this happens in every one of the movies.
Spoiler alert, Dominic.
Cheryl panics as she realizes that they're now trapped and the demonic entity will not let them leave. Back at the cabin, Ash listens to more of the tape. Why?
Right. Well, it's not like they had the internet back then, so they had to do something.
Yeah. Learning that the only way to kill the entity is to dismember a possessed host. As Linda and Shelley play spades, Cheryl correctly calls out the cards, succumbs to the entity, and levitates. In a raspy demonic voice, she demands to know why they disturbed her sleep and threatens to kill everyone. She stabs Linda in the ankle with a pencil and throws Ash into a shelf. Scott knocks Cheryl into the cellar and locks her inside. Everyone fights about what to do, having become paranoid upon seeing Cheryl's demonic transformation. Shelley lies down in her room, but is drawn to look out her window, where a demon crashes through and attacks her, turning her into a deadite. Though nobody uses that term. I don't think they use that term until the third movie.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But they're basically demonically possessed people. They're not quite zombies.
I can't remember if the guy that's the voice on the recording on the tape, if he says anything about deadite. If he does that, I don't think it's until the second one. But.
Yeah. So they're kind of like zombies. They're possessed corpses, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people seem to start turning into them before they've actually died. So I don't know how that works exactly.
Right. And they don't follow the other, at least older zombie logic, whereas you're slow and whatnot. No, these things are fast, and his editing is fast, and it's one of the things that made it a great, a great film even back then.
Let's see. She attacks Scott before he throws her into the fireplace and then stabs her in the back with a Sumerian dagger, apparently killing her. When she reanimates, Scott dismembers her with an axe and buries the remains. Shaken by the experience, he leaves to find a way back into town. He shortly returns mortally wounded from the possessed trees and dies while warning Ash that the trees will not let them escape alive. When Ash checks on Linda, he's horrified to find that she has become possessed. She attacks him, but he stabs her with the Sumerian dagger. Unwilling to dismember her, he buries her instead. She revives and attacks him, forcing him to decapitate her with a shovel and retreat to the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Back inside, Ash discovers that Cheryl has escaped the cellar. Cheryl eludes Ash and attempts to choke him. Ash escapes her grasp and shoots Cheryl in the jaw. As Ash is barricading the door, Scott reanimates into a deadite. Scott attacks Ash and inadvertently knocks the Naturum de Monto close to the fireplace. Ash gouges Scott's eyes out and pulls a tree branch from Scott's stomach, causing him to bleed out and fall to the ground.
Like you do.
Yep. Cheryl breaks through the barricade and knocks Ash to the floor. As Scott and Cheryl continue to attack Ash on the ground, Ash grabs the Naturum de Monto and throws it into the fireplace. While the book burns, the deadites freeze in place, then begin to rapidly decompose. Large appendages burst from both corpses, covering Ash in blood. Dawn breaks and Ash stumbles outside. As Ash walks away from the cabin, an unseen demon moves rapidly through the forest, rushes through the cabin, and attacks him from behind. And this effect, they sort of used a little homemade Steadicam to do this.
Uh-huh.
Throughout the movie, we get this, something is rushing through the forest. And what they did was they took like a 2x4 and a couple pieces of rope and put the camera on the middle of the 2x4. And then I think two of them were on either side with the rope running with the camera between them. So it could be really low to the ground, and then they could raise it up and they could tilt it and stuff. So it was a very low budget way to get a pretty cool effect.
Right. Yes.
That they then use throughout the rest of the movies.
They created a whole bunch of their little effects themselves, and I mean it was pretty great actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I always appreciate that sort of innovation. So, Jed, what are your thoughts and feelings about Evil Dead?
What are my thoughts about Evil Dead? Well, it looks like something that you would film with your camera these days.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It had
Yeah.
that very much feel. Of course, once again, we're talking about 1981. So it had a very almost student film kind of feel to it. And they were all young, and this was their first movie they were making, as far as I remember.
I think the only thing they had done was like a shorter version of this that was just basically a proof of concept version.
Right. To get
To
funding.
get them, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of things that are very much a part of what people remember about, Evil Dead that weren't in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's things that you want to talk about. He doesn't say his line groovy.
No,
It's not campy. It's some of the other ones.
most of the things people remember are really from the second one. The second one is a much goofier version.
And more polished. You could tell they had more money.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, we already know exactly how to film everything that we want to, and we're going to add a couple of these extra little things. Right. But otherwise, I liked it. I like it from a standpoint of being a filmmaker and being like, hey, this is my passion project I want to work on. But it's not. I definitely like Evil Dead 2 better. I am more of a comedy horror kind of person than I am a gore horror person.
Well, Wikipedia describes this one as a supernatural horror and the second one as a comedy horror. So there you go.
Well, that makes sense. But I do tell you, and I've said this before, practical effects. I love them.
Yeah.
I always have loved practical effects. There's just something more visceral and real about it. And even though some of them are kind of cheesy in the sense that, oh, well, that's definitely a mask or, something like that. A lot of times the stuff is so quick or it's moving so fast. You don't have enough time to focus on, oh my God, it's fake. It's like, oh my God, that thing is hurling at that person.
Mhm.
Things like that. And the camera angles and the point of view, he uses point of view shots all the time. Point of view, and he switches back and forth. Like you might be getting a point of view of the thing attacking you, like your Ash, and then right after that, you might have the point of view of the thing that's attacking Ash. He just switches back and forth on all of that stuff, which I think is just, you can tell that wasn't something that he knew not to do necessarily, but it works. So it's very enjoyable in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I appreciate the, low budget can do attitude.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, somebody liked it enough to finance as we say, a second draft of it.
Right. The alternate timeline.
And we're back. Let's move on to Evil Dead 2. Also known as Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn is 1987. Again, directed by Sam Raimi, written by Sam and Scott Spiegel, produced by Robert Tappert. It stars Bruce Campbell as Ash, Sarah Berry as Annie Nobley, Dan Hicks as Jake, Casey Wesley as Bobby Joe, Denise Bixler as Linda. So he's got the same girlfriend, and it's the same. Am I reading that right?
Actress or not?
No. Yes, no. Hold on. Let me. Where'd I just put my paper? Betsy Baker was Linda, and now Denise Bixler. Okay, I was getting Bixler and Baker mixed up. Denise Bixler is Linda, and Snowy Winters is Dancing Demon Linda. Richard Dolmier as Professor Ed Getley, John Peaks as Professor Nobley, Lou Hancock as Henrietta Nobley, Ted Raimi as Possessed Henrietta, and William Preston Robertson as the voice of the Evil Dead. So I've heard this described as he returns to the cabin, but he gives no indication of any. It's a reboot. It's a second draft. He gives no indication of having been there before, of remembering anything that happened. He has a girlfriend with the same name who I assume is meant to be the same girlfriend, even though it's a different actress. It's a different actress in the next movie.
Huh?
She's just in like a flashback, and I don't know why they didn't just use a flashback from this movie.
Maybe a different studio.
But it's a different. Well, they do use some footage from this movie, but it's a different actress and she has shorter hair. And there's a scene in the first movie where he's giving his girlfriend a necklace that has like a little magnifying glass hanging from it.
Right.
And in this movie, she has it already, but he says something that indicates he's just given it to her. We just don't see it. He's like, oh, so how do you like it? Like he gave it to her off camera before they got in the car or something.
Right.
And I think we even see a similar but not identical necklace in the reboot. So let me quickly go through this summary and we'll see. Yeah. We'll quickly go through this summary and see what some of the differences are. Ash Williams and his girlfriend Linda take a romantic vacation to a seemingly abandoned cabin in the woods. So I didn't say the budget is $3.5 million now, which is more than the last movie made. And the box office is 5.9. Not a huge haul, but worth the effort, I guess. And the music in both of them is by Joe LaDuca, who also did the music in Hercules and Xena. So once Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert, decide they like someone, they just keep using them. They seem to have a group of friends that they just keep working with.
Yes, they do. They've got their group.
Which I appreciate that as well.
Of course. We know what that's like.
Yeah. Yes. So they go to the cabin. Ash finds a tape, plays it. It's Raymond Nobley, the same guy. The cabin's previous inhabitant reciting passages from the Book of the Dead, this time, as I said, called the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, which he has discovered during an archaeological dig. The recorded incantation unleashes an evil force, also known as the Kandarian Demon. And that name comes up a lot in the later TV series, Kandarian. That kills and later possesses Linda, turning her into a Deadite. Oh, what I was starting to say earlier, though, is that even though we have a bigger budget now, we've scaled down things a bit. It was 5 friends, now it's just 2. But then we're gonna have some outsiders come in later, so maybe that's why they got rid of the other people. So they're gonna add some more people later from outside
and to tighten it up some. I'm assuming it's a lot to follow, especially when everybody starts turning into Deadites.
Yeah,
at least the first one. You're just like, wait, was that the first one? There's a lot of females that are Deadites now,
right?
And
it's hard to once they transform. Once they transform, it becomes kind of hard to tell them apart.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Ash is then forced to decapitate her with a shovel and bury her in a shallow grave near the cabin. So that's pretty much what happened the last time. At dawn, the evil force throws Ash through the woods. He briefly becomes possessed by a demon, but when day breaks, he is inexplicably returned to normal. There's a huge section of this movie that is just Bruce Campbell practically by himself, just dealing with evil shit, which is quite interesting. He doesn't have anybody else to really act with or react to. It's all just him dealing with special effects. He attempts to flee, but finds a bridge has been destroyed. The spirit chases him back to the cabin, where Linda's revived head attacks him and bites his hand. He returns to the shed, where her headless body attacks him with a chainsaw, but he overpowers and slashes the Deadite Linda to death. His right hand becomes possessed and tries to kill him, and he severs it with the chainsaw before attempting to shoot it with a shotgun. But his hand mocks him and ultimately escapes. So there seems to be an infectious quality to this demonic possession.
Yeah, and while we're talking about the hand here, part of my favorite part. This is where you start to realize that it's more of a
comedy.
More of a comedy. Yeah, it's more Night of the Living Dead meets Looney Tunes. Yeah, because he's shooting after his hand that's now crawled away like the thing thing, and whenever he's trying to shoot at it, or whenever it starts having a mind of its own, like he's trying to, when he's reloading the gun or doing something along those lines, it gives that like I'm waiting kind of tapping, and he flips him off at one point in time, like the severed hand flips him off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I love it. It just becomes just like, okay, that's the comedy. That's the Looney Tunes I'm looking for.
So meanwhile, Nobly's daughter, Annie, and her research partner, Ed Gently, return from the dig with the missing pages from the Necronomicon, only to find the destroyed bridge. They enlist repairman Jake and his girlfriend Bobby Joe to show them another route to the cabin, where they find an embattled Ash covered in blood. Thinking that he murdered her parents, Annie and the others lock him in the cellar. The four new arrivals listen to the rest of Nobly's recording, detailing how his wife Henrietta was possessed by the Kandarian demon, and that he killed her and buried her in the cellar. Henrietta, now a Deadite, possesses Ed. Ash dismembers him with an axe. Bobby Joe tries to escape, but demonically possessed trees attack and drag her to her death. But she does not get raped this time.
Right. That's,
I mean, nobody. That. So I guess I don't know if the producers objected. Well, it's Robert Tapper. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not complaining.
Right. No, I mean, it's quite disturbing. Although, if you missed it, and I know we're not talking about it yet, they bring it back for the reboot.
They do. They do. Annie translates two of the Necronomicon's pages before Jake turns on them and throws the pages into the cellar, forcing them at gunpoint to find Bobby Joe. Ash becomes possessed once again and attacks Jake. Annie retreats to the cabin and accidentally stabs Jake, mistaking him for the possessed Ash, before Henrietta kills him. Deadite Ash tries to kill Annie, but returns to his normal self upon seeing Linda's necklace. With Annie's help, Ash modifies the chainsaw, attaches it to the stump of his right arm, and cuts the shotgun's barrel. So this, we didn't get this in the first movie, but this is the thing that becomes iconic for Ash. This is what everybody thinks of when they think of Ash, that he's got a chainsaw attached to his arm.
Basically, when he becomes the Ash character, once that he will be from here on out.
Yeah. Let's see. And he cuts the shotgun's barrel. Did I say that?
Mm-hmm.
After finding the missing pages of the Necronomicon in the cellar, Ash kills Henrietta. The trees outside begin to destroy the cabin. Annie reveals that she has only read the first half of the incantation and attempts to finish the second half. As she reads it, Ash's severed hand uses a Kandarian dagger to stab her in the back. Boo, backstabbing hand. She manages to complete the incantation before succumbing to her wound. The incantation opens up a whirling temporal vortex which not only draws in the demon, but also Ash and his Oldsmobile Delta 88. And this car appears in
every movie that
all the movies
Sam Raimi makes.
Is it in every single movie? It's his See You Next Wednesday.
Basically.
It's definitely in all of these movies. I didn't check to see if it's in Doctor Strange.
I didn't see if it was in Doctor Strange either, but I know that was one of his calling cards, that he put it in every movie. It didn't matter.
I believe it's in the series, and it's in the reboot. Nobody drives it. I think she's just sitting on it at one point. It's just sitting there rusted out near the cabin.
I guess I didn't get that little Easter egg there.
Yeah, because I was kind of looking for it, and I was like, oh, I think that's the car right there. Ash and his Oldsmobile land in the Middle Ages. A group of knights confront him and initially mistake him for a Deadite, but are quickly distracted when a real harpy-like Deadite appears. Ash blasts it with his shotgun, and they hail him as a hero who has come to save them, causing him to break down and scream in anguish. And that is a hell of a cliffhanger.
Right.
I don't know how the studio or whoever approved that nonsense.
Maybe they weren't as involved in this throwaway horror movie that, it's not like they're like, oh, well, it's not Spielberg. I really don't care.
So we're not going to get to it in this episode, but Army of Darkness picks up right there. And
I think it's great. Like I said, I like Evil Dead 2 better. Once again, you still have all the practical effects. It throws in a couple of what would be considered special effects that are still, I guess, would still be practical effects, because I guess there really weren't computer stuff. But like you see a ghost image of the guy talking at one point in time, something like that. which wasn't in the first one. They didn't use anything like that in the first one. I learned that I'm a Michigan State shirt fan.
Okay, why's that?
Well, if you look in the opening sequence, that's what his girlfriend is wearing.
Okay. Does she look particularly good in it? I don't.
She did. I mean, let's just say that I'm sure many of those shirts were sold that year. I also like how the Necronomicon book was just sitting out in the open when they found it in the castle, and it was just sitting out in the open in the cabin that they arrived at. I don't know. Maybe all the cabins in the woods have Necronomicon books sitting out on the coffee table. I don't know. But it was just like, yeah, here it is.
They didn't have to go into the basement this time.
That's not War and Peace, right? I mean, it's literally a skin-bound book. That's not your typical coffee table book. Some of the lines in this movie, of course, are great and stuff that he ends up using, throughout. He does throughout his groovy line in this one, and I want to say it's right after he chops off makes his gun into a sawed off and puts it in the very back of his, bag back there. And of course they come and do that kind of sweeping shot right up to his face so that, his chin is taking up the entire screen.
Yeah.
And gets to say his line.
This movie is much more his movie. The other one, it's more of a kind of final girl situation where it's not immediately clear who the final survivor is going to be out of the group of 5.
Right.
He just has to sort of emerge through the process. But in this one, because it's just him and his girlfriend starting off, it's much more clear that this movie's about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's our lead, and he's much cooler.
They've set it up in the writing, things that they didn't do in the first Evil Dead. Like they make allusions to the fact that you're going to have a sequel, back in the day, and you see this drawing or whatnot, this sketch that is basically the closing scene of the movie where he's, in olden times, setting up the movie and setting up the character for the rest of these movies.
Yeah.
The Ash character, I mean.
Last year, Jed and I talked about Bubba Hotep, another Bruce Campbell movie. I'm thinking right now we should plan on next year doing My Name is Bruce.
My Name is Bruce. I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
Oh yeah, you gotta see that. Bruce Campbell plays himself.
Okay.
Although he's listed in the credits as faux Bruce Campbell. I don't know why. He's playing himself, Bruce Campbell, movie star who makes movies about fighting monsters, and then he has to fight a monster. It's a little bit like it's a little similar to Fright Night.
Mm-hmm.
Where Peter, not that Roddy McDowall's playing himself, but he's playing an actor who's known for fighting vampires who then has to fight a real vampire.
Right.
So it's that same kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out.
He directed it. He produced it. It's got Ted Raimi in it. Some of the music is by Joseph LaDuca. Some of it's there's 3 guys listed. And it was distributed by Image Entertainment and Dark Horse Entertainment, which are comic book companies. And I believe they made a comic book that accompanied it. So I think we should cover that one next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like it would be fun.
Well, we'll be back in an episode or 2 to discuss Army of Darkness, and then we will discuss the reboot and briefly touch on the series, which is on Netflix.
Yes, I'm so excited. You used to have a subscription to Stars.
Yeah, at some point it got picked up by Netflix. I can't remember if it was just for the 3rd season or just after it was all over.
Oh, yeah. I think it was after it was all over. I literally think they were trying to bring in people to Stars, although very specific crowd.
Yeah, there was some talk of Netflix picking it up for a 4th season, but that did not happen.
No, I think he's done. I think he's even said he's done playing Ash.
I don't see that Evil Dead. It does not appear to be streaming free anywhere right now.
No, the first one. No, I cannot find it anywhere online.
Where's Evil Dead 2? It's on Prime?
I own it, so I didn't see.
I do too. No, it says Prime with premium subscription, so it might be Stars. I don't know. But the reboot was on Tubi or something like that, right?
I can't
Yeah, it's everywhere. Okay, so the reboot is on Hulu and Pluto and Tubi. So if you guys want to watch that before we get to it,
There you go.
it's readily available for free. Army of Darkness is on Peacock. I don't know if it's available on the free version because there's like 3 different tiers of Peacock.
Right.
But because it's an older movie, maybe it is. I don't know.
Army of Darkness. Yeah, that's all I see it on is on Peacock app as well.
So there you
But
go,
it's
folks.
It's worth purchasing. That's all I can say.
I have the what is it? I have the edition that looks like it's in a paper bag. What is it? No, hold on. Let me go get it. Hold on. Okay. I think what I did was I watched it on Peacock. So whatever version that is. But I have a physical copy of what is called Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness, the director's cut official bootleg edition.
Oh man.
And the cover is made to look as if it is a paper bag, and just the little top of the DVD, what would normally be the DVD cover, is kind of peeking up over the top of it. But I know there's a version of, I think it's of this, it might be one, there's a version that comes in what looks like the Necronomicon. And I don't know how much different the director's cut is from the normal cut, but we'll get to all that in that episode.
All right. Yeah. Awesome.
So I think that will wrap it up for this episode. Thank you all for joining us in our 31 Days of Horror. If you haven't been listening all along, we will be...
What's wrong with you?
Well, yes, 1, what is wrong with you? But 2, we will culminate all of this on Halloween with Halloween Ends. Honeybee will be with me for that episode. That will be in theaters and on Peacock on the 15th. So you will have plenty of time to watch it before we spoil it.
But go see it in the movie theater.
I'm not
If
going
possible.
to the movie theater. I'm avoiding movie theaters because there's still cooties out there.
I don't believe you because I remember you being at a movie theater, but we won't go there.
I've gone to a few things. Mostly I go to the drive-in.
Okay, well, there you go.
But I've gone twice when I knew that nobody else was going to be there.
All I'm saying is support your movie theaters if possible, even if it is drive-in, because there's some things that just need to be seen on a big screen. That's just
Well,
at least for the first time.
My TV's pretty big these days.
It's not the same.
And this is something, folks.
Go watch Lawrence of Arabia. Huge sweeping shots where these people are just tiny. Go watch that on a big screen, not on, your laptop screen. Not on,
Well, definitely don't watch it on your phone. Like, I think I watched this on my phone. But here's something I want everybody to do, though, because I don't think we appreciate this enough. When Jed and I grew up, a maybe 20-inch screen was as big as you were going to get.
No kidding.
But we have a tendency to get used to things, no matter what it might be. So I want you to just take a moment to step back and look at your TV and appreciate how fucking big it is.
No kidding.
And if you're older, just remember what it used to be like, what size screen you used to watch, with multiple people gathered around it. Just take a moment to appreciate the size of your television.
And it wasn't widescreen.
No, it was not.
It
And
was,
I would always buy, when I could, I would buy the letterboxed
Yep. Same here.
the videotapes. So I was only using a third of the screen.
I have a VHS copy of the original Star Wars trilogy
Uh-huh.
in widescreen, letterbox. Oh, I love it.
I used to have that. I
love it.
I don't anymore, but I used to have that.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that is going to wrap it up for us for this episode. Jed, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
Folks, remember to follow us on all the socials. Go to mmftg.bio.link to find all of our links. And remember to keep calm and seek shelter in basements. And whatever you do, do not misuse science. We will not see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano folk rock punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/mmftg.
Fun time go.